Does this sound like your child? This is from a former public school teacher who is now homeschooling her daughter. Her daughter struggles academically with reading fluency and spelling, slow processing and math skills. Her long-term memory is lacking strength, lack of confidence, frustration, socially very shy, and slow to make friends. I'm sure there are lots of kids, unfortunately, out there who struggle with many of those same things. So we want to pick this apart a little bit. There can be lots of reasons for difficulty with fluency in reading and slow processing with math skills. And some of those things could actually be the same in both cases. Remember that we have one brain, and we take it to the process of reading, we take it to math, that's what we have to use. And so skills like processing speed, skills like visual span, how much information we can take in at a glance, visual and verbal memory are also skills that can impact both of these subjects. And particularly a clue here is when her mom talks about long-term memory. And she even says later she wants her to have confidence in learning and remember what she learned. Well, one of the things that we've been seeing a lot for the last few years, in fact, very much since COVID, since the pandemic, is much lower average skills for kids in the learning with their memory skills. So whether it's particularly the case for verbal memory, that's the ability to remember what we hear or what we read. It's language-based information. And we can do a lot of speculation about why this is the case. Perhaps kids weren't really asked to learn and remember and have to retrieve information during remote learning. That was the case for lots and lots of kids where they would do the work there, but there was no subsequent tests, there was no quiz, there was no coming back to have to demonstrate that they remembered it. And so that is one speculation as to why we may be seeing this to the degree that we are, but we're seeing it across the board in schools from all different kinds of backgrounds and all different parts of the country. And so it's something that may be, in fact, more common. Very often, teachers and parents don't realize that that's what's going on. They may actually suspect issues with attention or working memory. And sometimes that may be the case. Can't certainly just across the board rule it out. But the difficulty retrieving information can look a little bit like an attention problem. So if you have a child who doesn't remember what you told them earlier in the day or the next day or the day before, doesn't remember the facts that they've learned, doesn't remember the information, it can be very convenient to say, oh, well, they just weren't focused, they weren't paying attention. But sometimes they are focused and they are paying attention. The information is getting through our attention checks, but what it's not doing is sticking. And when it doesn't stick, it's not there. And we know a lot about how to make information stickier. There's some really good practices, but we can also strengthen memory skills. And as part of comprehensive integrated cognitive training, getting those memory skills to work with our attention skills and our working memory skills and our flexible thinking skills and our reasoning skills. So a lot of times what you see is that children who struggle with memory, with retrieving information, remembering it later, may understand it just fine. So they may, you may present information to them in a homeschool setting or in a school setting or wherever it may be, and it makes sense to them. But then it's not there the next day. So those are different processes, how we understand. And of course, that is going to lead to a lack of confidence and a lot of frustration. I've been hearing a good deal lately about frustration, kids who are frustrated in the learning process. And one of the things that I think is really important to remember is that frustration is part of learning, a certain degree. We don't want people to get so frustrated that they're incapacitated, but learning, like many things in life, is going to have some frustrating moments. And our job as parents and teachers is not to help our kids avoid frustration. It's not to relieve them and not ever put them in a situation where they might be frustrated. Frustration is part of life. What our job is to help them become more resilient, to help them bounce back, to help them regroup. And that requires skills like flexible thinking. If my first approach to something didn't work, I have to adjust. I have to take feedback from the environment and I have to switch. I have to think up a new approach to do that. It also requires processing speed, and also requires our memory skills, and it also requires other kinds of reasoning skills. And eventually, ultimately, bottom line is that what is needed for kids to develop that kind of resilience and that ability to bounce back from frustrating learning situations is confidence. It's confidence in their learning skills. So when kids have developed their learning skills and those skills are stronger, they are more confident. They know that while it might not work the first time, it might not work the second time, they know that they are capable of learning and that it will happen if they continue on in the learning process. Learning is a process. It's not just a thing that happens. Well, it is a thing that happens, but it doesn't always happen just magically. We don't always master complex skills and difficult things the first time. We may need to try it many times. We may have to adjust our strategies a number of times. But that is what sets us up for success in the long term. So another comment that this parent made was that she has not yet been able to do any kind of cognitive skills development with her daughter. I do things around the house and out in the world to help with the skills, but I'm not sure I'm targeting the right areas. And that's another great point, which is when we don't understand how a child learns, it's like throwing spaghetti against the wall. We just try a bunch of stuff and hope it sticks. We hope it works. And that can produce a tremendous amount of frustration because we're trying things and they're not working. And the message the child gets is, once again, I can't do this. When we understand what their strengths are, we understand what their weaker cognitive skills are, we can help them. We can help them use their strengths to be more successful in learning situations, and we can help them build up their weaker skills so that they're stronger and they work more effectively with all of the other cognitive processes that are strong and weak and everywhere in between. But we get them all working together, which is the way that our brain functions. It's got a whole bunch of cognitive processes that have to happen all at the same time, in collaboration, in conjunction, in coordination. Think of that old idea of the conductor directing the orchestra. When the orchestra is playing well together, it's beautiful music. When they're not, it can be very challenging and very, very frustrating. So that's a key point about being able to understand where our learners are and how we can target the most appropriate skills and help them develop their skills in a comprehensive and integrated way. We have a webinar coming up on Wednesday that I'm very excited about, and it's called Understanding and Addressing Understanding and Addressing Learning Challenges, Learning and Behavior Challenges Following the Pandemic. We're going to talk about some of these issues that I've been referring to that have to do with memory skills, that have to do with flexible thinking, that have to do with working memory, and some of the changes that may have occurred for many of our children during remote learning and the pandemic. This is really important information, and I'll post a link to sign up for the webinar. We still have space, and it's on Wednesday afternoon. So hope you'll be able to join us for that, but I'll post a link and you can register. You can register even if you can't be there at the specific time. If you can't be there, you will automatically get a link to the recording when it's available. So that's our little edition of Does This Sound Like Your Child for today. Having confidence in learning, remembering what we learn, to have fun and look forward to learning. Isn't that something we want for all of our kids? See you soon.